Well, it appears that the world is ready to go to war again. We have obviously the situation in North Korea, which has been, in my opinion, egged on by China and Russia. The North Korean allies, the allies of North Korea are China, Russia, Iran, and of course, Iran is the arch enemy of Israel today. One might ask, why is this happening? When you look at the news and bomb shelter sales are skyrocketing. And we have this monstrous dispute between China and India over a little tiny country, which India is like a big brother to, and China is trying to build a road through it, claiming it as theirs. China's been trying to claim a lot of things as theirs lately, including the Sea of Japan, telling Japan that they don't own the Sea of Japan. And of course, there's a Spratly Islands issue that China. So what we have here is we have a covert pre-war, I guess you would say, that's going on. Nations trying to take land, territories, and seas that, in some eyes, some people think that they do not own. For instance, Russia, with parts of Ukraine, Crimea, and etc. Strategically taking land, property, like I say, covertly doing this, and that kind of thing does eventually lead to overt military actions. It's inevitable. But this back and forth has been going on for the last 70 years after World War II. And as I've said before, this thing is going to go from covert to overt when Jehovah begins his trial, his tribulation upon the Gentiles. I want to go to Isaiah 51. And I want to make everyone, try to help everyone understand that first of all, when the Gentiles were given an opportunity for grace, it was at that time when Israel, or Judah and Jerusalem, were taken into captivity, were blinded, were maltreated by the Gentiles for nearly 2,000 years. And they had to drink of the cup of wrath, the cup of trembling, for many, 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 many years. And the time will come when they will no longer be drinking of that cup, but that cup will be given to somebody else, will be given to the nations who persecuted them. Isaiah 51, starting verse 17. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, you who have drunk of the hand of Jehovah, the cup of his fury. You have drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling and wrung them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she has brought forth. Neither is there any that takes her by the hand of all the sons that she has brought up. These two things have come upon you, and who shall be sorry for you? Desolation and destruction, and famine and the sword. By whom shall I comfort you? Your sons have fainted, they lie at the head of the streets. Like a wild bull in a net, they are full of the fury of Jehovah, the rebuke of your Elohim. Therefore, hear this, you afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus saith Jehovah and your Elohim, that pleads the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of your hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. You shall no more drink it again. And I say, as I say over and over, to religions today, whether it's Christianity or whether it's the Muslim religion, the Mohammedan religion, they love to claim that the Jews are forsaken forever. Well, they lie. So he's going to take that cup of trembling out of the hand of Israel's enemy, out of the hand of Israel, out of the hands of the Jews, out of the hands of Jerusalem, and give it into the hands of Israel's enemies. Verse 23, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict you. Those who have said to you, the Jews, they have said to your soul, bow down, that we may walk all over you. And you have laid your body as the ground, as a street to them who went over. So this has been going on for quite some time. But this once, as I've said so many times before, once the 77s are finished, and I've been able to prove, using the words of Gabriel himself, that the 77s are finished, the 77s of Daniel 9, it's so easy to do. A fifth grader could do it. This does not take somebody with a theology degree. And I will tell you, those folks who try to teach you with their theology degree, they are blind and they are foolish, because the wise of the world are foolishness unto Jehovah. So at the time that he takes that cup of trembling out of the hand of the Jews, Jerusalem, and all Israel, he is going to then put it into the hand of Israel's enemies. So that's when judgment, that is when these things are going to come upon the Gentiles. Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. You see, those four things, those are the ingredients that are in the cup of trembling. And that is why it is written in the New Testament that anguish will come upon all who do wickedly, to the Jew first and then to the Gentile. And it specifically says the Greek or the Hellenes. It is in that order. Judgment came upon Jerusalem and Judah at 67 AD, beginning with 67 AD onward. But the same judgment is going to come upon all the cities of this world, which is Babylon, written about in Revelation, in the vial, I believe it's written in, all the nations of all the cities of the nations. That is the last days Babylon. And it must happen in that order. Immediately after the cup of trembling is taken out of the hand of Judah, Jerusalem, and all Israel, it must be placed into the hand of Israel's enemies, the rest of the world. It must be. There is no other way. And Jeremiah 50 is a prelude. Is a prelude to the coming Exodus out of this world into the Holy Land once again. Verse 4. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come, they and also the children of Judah, together. And this is backed up in Jeremiah 3, verse 16. So the house of Judah and the house of Israel will come together. Going and weeping they shall go, and seek Jehovah their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces towards Zion, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been a lost sheep. Now, let me stop right here. This particular verse 4 has not happened yet. Only the house of Judah, or portions of the house of Judah, have come back. The house of Israel has not come back yet. I will continue. Verse 6, my people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them. You see. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they sinned against Jehovah. You see. So you can take this particular passage, this particular verse, and you can point to all the groups of people who were persecuted in Europe. And the Jews being the foremost, but they were not the only ones. There were others who were persecuted too. But they said that they do not offend. They said that they had not offended Jehovah because the Jews sinned against him. So in the minds of the Gentiles, that they could do whatever they wanted to the Jews and it wouldn't be a crime. So what is Jehovah's answer? Verse 8, get out of the midst of Babylon, and get out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be like the he-goats before the flocks. And as I said before, this is a prelude. What happened to Babylon, old Babylon, is a prelude for what's going to happen to the cities of this world. For I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon a great assembly of nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her, and from there she shall be taken, so on and so forth. Now, verse 11, because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O destroyers of my heritage. You hear that, Europe? This goes upon you too, not just old Babylon. because you have grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as a bull. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bore you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost parts of the nations, or the lattermost part of the nations, shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Jehovah it shall not be inhabited, but shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goes by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. And so shall this happen to all the nations who persecuted Israel throughout all these years. And I hope the leaders of Europe read this, because this is going to fall upon them and every other nation who persecuted Israel. I will go to verse 17. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria has devoured them, and this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has broken his bones. Therefore saith Jehovah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land. Just like I punished the king of Assyria, I will bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead, which of course means that Jordanians will have to leave. They are occupying Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. And the sins of Judah, they shall be not found, for I will pardon them who I reserve. Now, as you see in this chapter, the pardoning of Israel and Judah happens at the same time that punishment goes forth upon Israel's enemies. One has to happen right with the other at the same time. Do not let your preacher deceive you into thinking, into muddying the waters and thinking that this judgment upon the world is judgment upon everybody. It is not. It is not judgment upon everybody. It is mercy for Israel, judgment on the Gentiles. It must happen this way. And Paul points to this in Romans 11. You read all about read all of Romans 11, you will see that he is chiding the Romans for boasting themselves against Israel. And he says they must not do this. And he explained to them that to boast against the branches, they are also boasting against the root, who is Yeshua the Messiah. And of course, the nations have continued to boast against the root, replacing his name, Yeshua or Yehoshua, replacing his name with an ode to Zeus. Jesus. That's what they replaced his name with, which is unacceptable. It's an abomination. And they say they keep these pagan holidays to show that Christianity has overcome paganism. This is what somebody wrote to me in one of these blogs, and this is absolutely insane. It's insane thinking that you defeat paganism by keeping pagan holidays, that you defeat the works of darkness by entering into darkness, that you somehow defeat pagan names by adopting pagan names. This is unacceptable. What's really going on here is a rejection of Israel's Messiah and making your own idols, making your own false Messiah, so that when Israel's Messiah does come, these nations will not recognize him. They will call him the Antichrist and fight against him, as it is written in the book of Revelation, where it says the 10 toes will make war with the Lamb. Google it. Make war with the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them. So in Romans 11, verse 17, and if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them, they were never supposed to be against them, the remaining. With them partake of the root and fatness of the olive tree. Boast not against the branches, because if you boast, you bear not the root, but the root bears you. You will say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if Jehovah spared not the natural branches, those who sinned, take heed lest he also spare not you. Behold, the goodness and the severity of Jehovah on them which fell severity, but toward you goodness, if you continue in his goodness. And did the Gentiles continue in his goodness? No, they did not. They did exactly what was written in Isaiah 51. They said that they did not offend when they persecuted Israel. And they say the reason why they didn't offend was because Israel had sinned. So